Thank you for joining us today on 344 Live, where we support sellers and job seekers. Please take a moment to support Jody Dodgson's Customer Service Manager job search. She leads teams, improves customer satisfaction with a commitment to kindness. Who knows? A small action today may be a big movement tomorrow. And welcome to the 344 Live, where we are running at 3:44 p.m. GMT or UTC, whichever one you prefer, because they're exactly the same. I looked it up on Google last night. And that's because Abi Williams is in Ireland. And it is at 3:44 p.m. Pacific time, would have been way too late. So we're doing it on her time, and that's how the 344 rolls, where it's all about the guest, not about the host. And we get to hear some really cool stories about how she has moved from some serious power in terms of the corporate sales role at very high level from very big organizations, some of which we know well. This LinkedIn, she's been in the sales teams there. And gosh, I'm so excited just to kind of hear that background. And then what you're doing now, Abi, like just getting out into this fractional CRO role, leveraging those skill sets that you've built, bringing them to up and coming small businesses to help them with their survival, right? Like how do you go to market? So let's get started, lest I take up all the time with the intros and all that good stuff. All right, so Abi, I want to hear about like this. Let's just dive right into what you're doing now and tell me a little bit about like who your ideal customer is and who you're talking to and who you're really trying to go after and help.
Okay, so it's so great to be here, Trevor. Thanks for the opportunity to come on this show today. So my ideal customer profile, it's really a startup in between seed or Series A that cannot afford a full-time CRO salary because it's quite high, or doesn't need a full-time CRO, however, needs the expertise in order to set up a solid foundation to accelerate revenue. So from building go-to-market strategy, sales execution, CSM strategy, marketing strategy with a startup, what are the things that needs to be on ground for you to hit that chart to the right? And this is really key because we see that 90% of startups fail. And this is part of the reasons why I decided to start leading on lag after working with big organizations like LinkedIn, Udemy, Pluralsight, helping them scale their revenues and helping them scale their teams. I thought to myself, wait, hold on a minute. How about the smaller companies? How can I help them with everything that I've learned from these big companies and the smaller companies as well? How can I help startups and help reduce that failure rate? So that's why I'm passionate about this.
Okay. This sounds really awesome because I've worked in small businesses and at least a couple off the top of my head that have both just like right and I'd like to say that our GTM was okay, right? It was fine. What I think we hit was our product just kind of like it sort of tanked, right? It was good for a while, and then it all of a sudden became obsolete. So the question I have for you is, so when you get involved, right, with these small businesses, where are they in their product lifestyle, their product development? Like, are they usually like I've got something here. Like, do you have a feel for that, or do you vet that?
So as an advisor to a lot of startups, I find that a lot of great founders build cool products.
Yeah,
not necessarily products that people need or want to buy. So often when I coach people, we talk a lot about what is this problem the solution is trying to solve, because without that, there's not going to be any revenue, right? So typically I deal with startups around the 1 million revenue, early signs of product market fit, startups that have a problem that they're trying to solve, not just this cool solution. That is nice to build, right?
Yeah, we see that so much, right? We do, and then we see, and like just another entry, right? Another commodity. It becomes a commodity, right? Just sort of set of functionality that doesn't like. Okay, I've already got that. I don't need that again, right? Or I'm settled into a solution that's that's good. Okay, so are you seeing a lot of that right now? And like, is there like a huge demand for this kind of fractional CRO service?
I think it's early days, especially in EMEA. I think this is a service that is just up and coming. I think it's a little bit more advanced in the US. And there's opportunity for us to socialize this even more, right? Because that need is there. There's a lot of startups who need this help, who need this expertise, whose strengths are building great products, right? However, they need help to understand who are their target audience, what is the problem, and how can their solution help solve that problem? Where do you find them? Who are the personas? What's top of mind in terms of problems, goals, and needs for this persona? And then how do we align that narrative to address those problems? Because sales ultimately is about solving problems. So if there's no solve, there's no solution to solve.
Yeah, my good friend Mike Phillips and I, he's this deep marketing thinker guy that I just adore, and he's been on the show in the past, and he brought this Ikigai Venn diagram to me. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's this notion of like, what can I do, and what am I passionate about, and what can I actually make money doing, right? That's like the thing that's we're talking about, and I am with you, right? I literally just got back from this B2B marketing exchange. I mentioned that. So I'm a little spread out, but but I sort of felt that energy, like, I go by these booths and I'm like, really? Like, I don't know that I need to do that, right? That doesn't really solve my problem
Right.
in a way that I want to pay for. And I'm really constantly trying to think of,
Yes.
I'm a business. So if I act like a business,
Mhm.
then, how do we get there? So if I hire you, right? If I hire Lead Not Lag, fractional CRO services by Abi Williams, how does it work? Like what do you do for me? Like how often are you available, and how do I tap you as a resource?
Great question. So fractional could mean 1 day a week, 2 day a week. It could mean a term of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. It just depends on what makes sense for yourself as a fractional CRO and the company. But what I typically do is really just understand the product, the problem that it's trying to solve. Is it solving a problem? Because if I'm not convinced that it's solving a problem, then that would be difficult. It would be very, very difficult to do my job, and it would be difficult to scale revenue, right? And really having that transparent conversation to understand where are you right now in terms of your go-to-market strategy, how many clients do you have, what is your objectives? Because a lot of startups have received funding. They have this outcomes that they need to drive from the investors, from the shareholders. But is this feasible? Is this reasonable? And at this stage of your startup. So really outlining where are we in terms of pipeline, how much resources do they have, how did they get the sales that they made to date? Was that from friends, or was that stuff that was generated and went through the whole end-to-end stage of a deal? So really trying to understand where we are from a product perspective, from a need perspective, from an internal company perspective, and then the other piece from a leadership perspective. So I really spend a lot of time understanding the mindset of the founders, because it's very important that we are agile in our mindset and we're open in our mindset, and able to adapt to what we're seeing with the customer, what the customer is saying, what the market is saying, and be able to move fast with that pace versus stick to, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I believe, so we're just going to keep doing this and expect a different result. So that mindset and that coachability is really important to see if there's alignment with myself.
So what I'm hearing though is so at the beginning, it's probably a pretty intense integrated evaluation phase, right? Where you're probably there a lot, for a while, just to get all this stuff kind of really ironed out. So as a small business owner, as a set of founders, or a leadership team, I could expect to bring you in, and you would like, hey, we're going to do this, right? We're going to figure this out, and you're going to have to be held accountable to some really hard questions and deliver some really good answers. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then once we get through that and we settle into, all right, we got something. Yes. Okay. Let's run with that sucker. So then I can kind of pull you, and maybe we hire some people. We bring in, we start to build the sales team, or we build out our marketing, come up with that plan. I suspect you're going to be involved in that, right?
Correct. So I would help you build what that strategy is,
Okay.
should be at the stage of your company. And then also, in some cases, help execute that as well. So sometimes I work with startups that don't have a sales leader and maybe have one or two salespeople. I would do a lot of work to help execute what does that mean in terms of team meetings, in terms of coaching, in terms of enablement, in terms of sales decks, and whatever we need to achieve our agreed goals and objectives.
Okay, great. So, and it sounds like a lot of positioning work is probably as well. I'm imagining.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now tell me how do you, Abi Williams, compete for the business, right? What makes you different? Why should I hire you? I mean, yes. Okay, so here's like some maybe legitimate, but I think it's an okay question, right? I'm an SMB. You have worked for big companies. How does your big company experience translate to my SMB reality? Tell me that.
Yeah. So I've worked for a lot of big companies, but you'd be surprised how unstructured and startup-y companies are, even within the big companies, right? So it's important to have that context. So, for example, there's an organization that I worked with that I helped scale their revenue within their SMB entity from 2 million to 25 million in 2 years.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's really about focusing on the competencies versus the size of the company, and really understand the competency that takes to move somebody from 0 to 1 million versus 1 million to 3 million and 3 million to 10 million. Understanding those competencies, and that's what you'd be looking for in working with a fractional CRO, versus focus on, oh, they've only worked with small companies, or they've only worked with big companies, because within big companies you have small entities that a startup strategy is required. Also, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of startups helping to drive their business in the last 6 to 9 months. So again, it's back to those competencies. But why? Back to your question, why should somebody work with me? Again, it's really that diversity in experience and that clarity in terms of the competencies that's required for success at different stages. Whether you're a big startup, you're middle stage, Series C, or a pre-seed, right? That competency to understand what it takes for failure and what it takes to achieve success. And then secondly, I believe that diversity of experience is an edge to any customer. Really, diversity from working with different kind of companies, diversity from myself and that EMEA and global experience. And then also that diversity of knowing what worked and what didn't work. Because I've had companies that we've led to IPO and it just didn't work. It crashed, right? There's learnings for that, for smaller companies, so that they don't have to make the same mistake the big guys did, or girls, right? So yeah, absolutely.
And we have a little bit of time, but not much. But I want to ask one question. Are you being approached by bigger companies to fractionalize, to lead on a fractional basis some of their internal SMB-ish type of initiatives?
No, not yet. So right now I focus my fractional work with startups around the pre-seed and Series A. With bigger companies, what I would do with bigger companies is leadership workshops in terms of how do they accelerate their results, which is a different competence in a different ball game as well, because of the stage they're at.
Gotcha. All right. So talk to me a little bit about the outcomes, right? So because you did mention that you've had a few clients now, right? And so what are they seeing? Like, is this are they really starting to hit home runs now? I mean,
so some of the outcomes that you would set with an early stage is, firstly, sales execution, right? I worked with a startup whereby they were selling their product as a nice to have. It's like, okay, so you're selling to a B2B, you're selling to a customer. This needs to align to the strategic objectives. So how do we empower our sales force, and how do we empower our narrative to speak to the objectives? Because that's the only reason why anybody's going to approve budget to buy a solution. It has to be in a need to have, right? So really the sales narrative, and then also things like looking at pipeline. Where's the pipeline today? Where does the pipeline need to be? Really putting in that strategy, looking at their marketing engine. How's that working? When we think about demand generation and demand capture, is there enough coverage? Looking at the forces on ground from a sales perspective. What coaching do they need? Do we need to implement methodologies like MedPick to help, fine tune a sales process? From a sales ops perspective as well, are they using Salesforce? How can they optimize their CRM so that they have one source of truth, right? We have sales decks. So again, it depends. It can get really operational and it can get really strategic as well, depending on the company is and where they need to be.
So it sounds like, okay, so now we've got you, we're working, and maybe we're working toward this increased ARR, right? We're getting there, but we have a lot of confidence, right? So you're there and we feel like, okay, we're ready, right? So now I can continue to just drive this and execute this GTM that we've built together and have the confidence that it's going to actually work, and we're going to have a business that we can build, we can live off of, we can sell, we can do whatever we're going to do with. Okay, awesome. And all right, so we're at the end of our time. And as promised, I need a tip from you. All right, so I'm going to say, let's go. And you're going to give me something that we can offer back to our users that we'll put out on LinkedIn and up on YouTube Shorts. And then when you're done, I'll say, we're going to take that to the bank. All right. So are you ready?
Yes.
Let's go.
So I would say focus on solving a problem. Focus on solving a need, and everything else comes afterwards. Versus focus on your need. When you focus on the customer's needs or solving a problem, everything else, success, everything else comes afterwards.
Okay. So that's easy. Focus on the problem and everything else comes afterwards. I love that. That is so easy. I'm going to take that to the bank. And with that, Abi, I want to say thank you so much for coming here on this little baby show. I know that, I know you're busy. I know that it's the middle of the afternoon on a Thursday. And I got to say that, I'm just getting started today, coming back. It's crazy. This is the world we live in. And so again, how important it is to me that you would give us this time, and, to me personally, and, to whoever ends up seeing this. And I'm thrilled to get to know you. And with that, I am going to sign off and say thanks to everybody. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Thanks for having me.